Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Installment number 4 of this P-51 transformation. Some of the questions I've been getting from previous videos are, what kind of filler do I like to use? Gosh, there's so many options out there, and a lot of people have great success with many, if not most of them. But to answer your question, something that I like to use that I just came across, this is a fairly new product that I found at Home Depot. It's produced by 3M. 3M is generally synonymous with good quality products. This is a very light but high strength hole repair spackle. It goes on blue, and then when it's dry, it's white. That's what I've done so far on the tail of the Mustang, where I had to fix and fill. Sands very easily. I haven't found any real tendency for cracking or anything of that nature. It's actually been holding up pretty well so far. And then once you glass it, of course, that locks everything in, and you should be good to go there. But this product, I'll just show it to you here. It's very light, kind of a purpley light blue color, and it dries very quickly. Very, very light though, and that's really cool, especially if you're filling and doing things cosmetically to the tail of your airplane, specifically Warbirds, right? Because we want to keep those tails light. Another product that I really love, that's a much heavier consistency, but very not prone to cracking, is this stuff by DAP. It's Plastic Wood X. It dries to a natural finish. It goes on pink, but it basically dries, balsa colored. So this stuff works really well too. I haven't used this particular container yet, but that's what it looks like on the inside. It is more dense, so it certainly weighs more. Very, very easy to sand. It's just like sanding soft balsa. This stuff, on the other hand, is like you're not sanding anything. It comes off really, really quickly, so you can really get by with a really fine grade sandpaper. I typically go at this stuff with about 320 for my first cut, and this stuff 150 to 220 for this pink stuff. So whatever works for you. This is just, I think, a little heavier duty. This is extremely lightweight. If you're going to be exposed to some bending or flexing, I would tend to go with something like this, just because it's more robust when it does dry and fully cure. It will crack on you, but once you lock it in with fiberglass, it would help prevent that. So anyway, what I'm working on today is I cut out some trim tabs for these ailerons, and basically what I've done is I scaled down the measurements and cut them out with a razor saw and an X-Acto knife blade, and I filled it in the void here between the sheeting just with some 1/8 inch balsa, because what I plan to do with the trim tab that has been closed off on the leading edge and each side with 1/32 balsa is I'll just use a pin basically to attach these two together when it's time to actually assemble them. And I'll probably show a video of that later on down the road. One of the things that I don't like to do is to fiberglass very, very small pieces like this. What I've found that is much easier for me anyway is just to use a very light aluminum tape. And that's what I'll do in this application as well. Just regular HVAC tape. That's a little heavier stuff. I've got some different grades of it in my shop here, but or flight metal. I've got a stash of flight metal too that I use for that, but this works pretty well. I think I got this from McMaster Car. It's still fairly thin, easy to cut obviously, and you can sand it down or do whatever you want with it, but works pretty well and saves you from having to fiberglass these small parts. You certainly wouldn't want to fiberglass the entire aileron section with this together. You wouldn't be left with any of the definition, right? Where there should be voids. You'd have to clean all that up, and to me it's just more effort. So more to come on that. I'll show you how I go through that process. So when I do these trim tabs, these smaller parts like this, I'll start off by covering the edges first with aluminum tape, and then I'll go ahead and do the remaining surface so that any edge is covered up with the main portion of the larger surface here. It's helpful to get these things ready to have the backing paper kind of peeled up a little bit. Sometimes that's the hardest part of this stuff, is just getting them to separate. Try not to put your fingers on there too much, and it's just, you know, just as simple as sticking it on. And then for stuff like this, I'll just use my finger, not my fingernail, because that will leave grooves, and just kind of bend it over the side just a little bit, and then just simply take some scissors and get as close as you can to the edge. So that you've got just a little bit of margin left over, and just fold it on over. And seal up that edge completely. Just like so. So now we'll just move on to do the rest of the portion here, and I'll do an I've got this piece cut. What I'm gonna do is kind of stretch it out a little bit, and I'm gonna go over the leading edge just by about, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I wanna leave some bare balsa exposed because I'm gonna be gluing these trim tabs in place permanently, and that will allow me to have a more permanent bond. So once I've got that leading edge down, now it's just a matter of starting in the middle and just slowly working it down to the trailing edge of the part. The beauty of this tape is, as you know, it sticks, and it sticks well. If you ever have to pull it up, you're gonna have to pull up the whole thing and replace the whole thing. A lot of the adhesive on the back can be left behind, and that would create its own set of problems there as well. So anyway, now that I've got that side done, it's nice and flat, it's not showing any wood grain. I'll just come back and do the same thing on the other side, except working from the trailing edge forward. Again, just using my finger, not my nail. Just a nice, smoothly kind of stretch this and get it to adhere to the surface. Just like so. And you're gonna get some imperfections there, you know, like I've got some here. I'm not really concerned about that. After all, we're dealing with a metal surface that was fabricated in World War II. You know, things just weren't always pretty and neat. In fact, rarely were they ever. Once I get it on this side, then I'll just simply, I'll take scissors in this particular case, or you could use an X-Acto knife. Denatured alcohol works as kind of a lubricant with this stuff to keep the tape from sticking. As I said, it's really super sticky stuff. But in this case, I'm just gonna take some scissors and just kind of fold it over the edge here, so I'm working this out a little bit. Well, I'll get to that later. I don't want to screw up what I've already done. In fact, I already have. Anyway, I'll fix that, but for now, we'll just cut this off, leading that 1/16 to maybe 1/8 of an inch edge that will just end up folding over like so. Then once you get it down, you know, you can take like a hotel key card or something like that just to kind of get any wrinkles on the edges out. You just don't want to stop. Once you start moving, you want to keep going because it will leave a dent. You're not going to see any of this anyway, but you know, we're left with this, and I'll just trim off these edges and we'll move on to the next one. So, piece of cake. All right, so now that I've got the trim tab all covered in aluminum tape, it turned out all right. The sides don't really matter. You're not really going to see them, but I covered them anyway. But what I like to do is just use some dressmaking pins and locate where the ribs are inside of this trim tab, and then stick a dressmaking pin in each one. Then what I'll do is I'll come over and I'll nip off the end and leave about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch exposed. And then what I can do is just really leave those in there. Or you could actually flip them around so that the pointy edge is on the other side. But this is, you know, it's kind of sharp as it is. And all we're doing is going to push this through, you know, very soft balsa anyway. Once you find where, you can see I've got a rib here and then another rib here. Those line up with these pins here. Just kind of get yourself into the right position and just kind of push them on in. And this will temporarily install these things. When it comes time to fiberglass, you just pull them out, you fiberglass your part, you sand it to how you want, and when it comes time to do priming and painting, you actually glue these things on permanently, and you've got two pins that'll allow them to line up just how you got it right here. So just one technique. It's what I like to use. Seems to work out pretty well. All right, we've got both the aileron trim tabs done. They've been covered in aluminum tape and pinned in place temporarily. So yeah, on to the next. So the stock Mustang has you use CA hinges for both the elevator and the rudder. That may work for a while, but over time they will fail. The first Mustang that I built, that I still have, I had several hinges fail, both on the rudder and the elevator. This is back before I really knew anything. So they worked fine for a lot of years, and then eventually I replaced them all with Warbirds hinge points. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna use the large hinges, the 3/16 hinge. These guys, you know, I like to buy them in bulk. They work well and they last for a very long time. So that's what we're gonna do. I also use the Warbirds jig to ensure that I've got the hole perfectly centered in the workpiece. So I'll mark the center position basically with an X. You probably can't see it in here, but yeah, there it is. And then drill through that. And what I'll do is do that for all of them and go through and then do the elevators as well. I want to get these elevators drilled out before I actually sheet them, just to make sure that I get any type of, you know, remnants from the drilling out, because there will be plenty of that. I don't want that floating around. That kind of drives me nuts too. So a little OCD that way. Anyway, let's drill a hole here. And let me move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Not that this is anything that you probably haven't done before, but a nice sharp drill bit. These are Milwaukee drill bits. Brand new, I've never used this particular bit before. And we'll just zip through here. that reinforcing block that's back there. And you can see we've got a hole that's perfectly centered within this workpiece. I'm going to do the rest of these and then also the elevator as well. We'll join them together to make sure everything fits, and we'll be back then. All right, so I got the elevators all hinged. Those pockets drilled through. I'm going to close these in, each hinge here, with some soft balsa to contour this before I sheet it, just to make sure that there's good purchase in there. It should be good enough. I mean, this is 1/8 inch balsa, but we don't want to have to do this again. So I'm going to do that. And also too, what I found out when I drilled the holes for these hinge points, these two right here, there's only about 1/4 inch of balsa to grab this stab side of the hinge. So I'm going to have to open this up and put some balsa blocking in there, and then close it back up again. Well, re-drill the holes and close it back up again, just to make sure that there's good purchase there. This is good. We've got a good 1/2 inch here on this particular one, and this is going into solid balsa, so that's not an issue either. But definitely want to beat this up and make sure that we have a deeper socket to accept that hinge point, just to make sure that it'll lessen the chance of it coming loose in the future. Well, I've got the hinge points all in the elevators and then also the rudder. And what I did here is just to give some more purchase for the hinge point to secure to. I glued in some 1/8 inch thick balsa along either side of the hinge point, just to make sure that we get enough purchase in there so they don't pull out. So that turned out pretty good. And both of those are done. And also too, the rudder has also been hinged. Kind of the same method. I used some 1/8 inch balsa on either side where the hinge point's going to go through, and that'll capture that pretty well. Again, there's not a ton of purchase here through this leading edge of the rudder. Maybe at best about 1/2 inch, but I wanted to make sure that the entire hinge was able to receive the glue and stay in place. So that's all done. Next for the rudder will be to cut out the trim tab and build up that area. And then as far as the elevators are concerned, I'm going to sheet these with 1/32 balsa sheeting, get them all sanded down to shape, and then I'll be cutting out the trim tabs for the elevators as well. All right, so we've got the elevators are sheeted, and that sheeting has been blended in with the rest of the surface. You can see where I cut out and inserted some blocking on these two areas here to accept the hinge points. Still have to cut out the elevator trim tabs, but for now this is pretty well complete. So in the next video I'll be detailing my engine installation with the EME 55. And here's just a quick glamour shot of the Spicala cowl. More to come on this.